Welcome to the Iman Gadzhi editing style masterclass. This is the style that has completely taken over the editing industry and just raised the standards to a whole new level, something that YouTube has never seen before, making it one of the highest paying editing styles in the entire industry. Now, what sets Iman's style apart is its seamless blend of clean animations, dynamic text effects, and pacing. It's not just about cutting clips together, it's about creating a visual experience that keeps the viewers glued to the screen from the start until the finish. And the result of this editing style is a video unlike anything else that you see on YouTube. But here's the thing, while this style kind of looks incredibly context, it's actually not out of reach. I'm pretty confident that any medium level editor can actually master this style if you really go all in. Now, with the right techniques and again a bit of practice, you can actually start incorporating these elements into your own edits, whether you are a beginner looking to dip your toes into some more advanced editing, or if you're a seasoned pro wanting to refine your skills and really just take your editing to the next level. So that's why by the end of this video, you will learn exactly how to create 3 full animations from completely scratch in Iman Gadzhi's editing style, ranging all the way from beginner to advanced level. First level. On the first level, I'm going to show you one of Iman Gadzhi's signature animated vector style animations, where we will cover exactly how to bring boring stationary images to life and create beautiful landscape scenes. Second level. On the second level, you will learn how to use classic 3D in After Effects and create yet again one of Iman Gadzhi's signature editing style numbering list animations. Third level. On the third level, we will cover how to use advanced 3D in After Effects and create amazing Iman Gadzhi camera cut scenes while also incorporating 3D professional lighting. Oh, and by the way, that's not even everything. You will also have a way to be able to access all of the project files and materials used in this entire video, so you can use them in your own projects or even recreate everything together with me on this video as well. Now, as a disclaimer, this video is going to require some time investment, but if you want to make thousands of dollars a month from your editing and you want to stand out from the crowd and you can't even sit down for 30 minutes and stay focused, I'm sorry to break it to you, but you're not going to make it, okay? So go ahead, grab a cup of coffee, a notepad, and get ready to lock in and master this new skill. So the first animation is going to be the animated vector style animation. Now with this one, you can even follow along if you only know the basics of After Effects because it's a 2D effect. But before we would actually get started in the software, where should you go about actually finding these amazing vector graphics? Now, Iman's editors like to use these 2 main websites from what I've observed, FreePic and Vecteezy. Now, as you can notice, a majority of these captivating graphics unfortunately often have some unnecessary parts, such as colored backgrounds and unwanted objects or any other layers we want to get rid of. In order to remove them, once you download the file, you are going to want to open the EPS file in Illustrator, open the layer panel and remove any layer that you might not want in there. To make the background transparent, use Ctrl, Shift and D on your keyboard. Now let's get inside of After Effects. Now you want to start by creating a solid layer for the ground and then use the gradient ramp to actually color it. After this, you can choose the character of your liking. In my case, I'm going to choose this James Bond kind of looking guy with a cigar and rotate him horizontally. Now let's create the road. Go ahead and use another shape layer with a rectangle. On top of it, draw a line with the pen tool and then turn off the fill and color the road to gray. We can also go ahead and add some skyline for the background as well as a gradient ramp to color it. Once we did that, you want to add some dashes to the road line and adjust the thickness and the stroke. Set the palms to create a 3D space depth illusion. Now you want to create a new solid for the sky and make it brighter than the rest of the scene. You want to animate the palms, keyframe the rotation. To make the animation go forever, you can copy the first keyframe and paste it after the second one. Select all the keyframes and alt-click on rotation. Here, you can use the loop out expression, which pretty much just makes the animation go forever. You want to do the same for the other palm trees as well. Now it's time for the fun part, the supercar. Since we will want to animate the car driving into our animation, we will want to put the car itself and the wheels on different layers, so we'll be able to animate them separately. Since the wheels are on separate layers, go ahead and get them out of the car's pre-composition and just make them match the original car layer size and parent them to the same car layer. Now go ahead and flip the car and separate the position keyframes. Keyframe the x-axis and position, and then move the keyframe forward and the keyframe to the starting position. Easy ease the animation by clicking F9 on the keyboard and smoothen it out in the graph editor. For the wheels, you will need to adjust the anchor point so that it's in the middle of the wheel so it will be able to rotate as well. Now go ahead, keyframe the wheel rotation at 1 spin, easy ease, and match the two animations duration and smoothness. This will get you an animation where the wheels stop turning exactly when the car stops its motion. Do the same thing for the car accelerating away animation and add motion blur. Now, let's go ahead and get our James Bond back and let's create him some smoke. First, you want to go ahead, create a solid and add particles playground to it. Then you want to turn it black, increase the velocity and force in the settings. After this, go ahead and alt-click direction and animate wiggle expression. Now to make the smoke animation a little bit more realistic, you want to go ahead and apply fast box blur. Make sure you duplicate the smoke and pre-compose it. To slow down the smoke a bit, just use the same time stretch and then you want to set it to 150%. Now go ahead, color the car quickly and let's create a small 3D text pop-up. Make a shape layer and make its outline very thin, and you want to also lower the opacity a bit. Round the corners and add the text. After this, you want to insert the decoration star, color it, and pre-compose all three together. Add deep glow after this and turn it into a 3D layer and animate the y-axis position with opacity. And as a little decoration, we can also go ahead and add a light sweep effect to it and animate the center movement. For an arrow, create a shape layer and draw an arrow with the pen tool. After that, add trim paths and animate both elements. For the text, use any font which reminds you of handwriting, and also add the text animation from text presets and put some glow on it. As a final sprinkle on top of that, you can also add an adjustment layer with some grain and a vignette. Now, after this, to stylize our James Bond kind of character, you want to drop a CC light sweep in a yellow color on him. Increase the width until he is covered fully, and then after that you want to adjust the edge intensity so we make this outer glow effect on him. And as a cherry on top, we will add the effect called scan lines to give it this cool retro look. And now, the secret behind making these characters come to life. You want to use the puppet tool to select which parts you want to be moving. Make sure to put the dots across the majority of the body, so when you animate just one segment of it, the rest of the body will remain stationary. Once you have the keyframes, move on the timeline for about a second and move the part of the body that you want to animate. And now we want to do the same thing that we did with the palm trees as well. You want to use the loop out expression to make the animation last forever by alt-clicking on it and then adding the expression. Now pre-compose all the layers and you can add a slight zoom in on it as well if you want to the whole animation. And now let's go ahead and take a look at this masterpiece that we created together. Now, I don't know about you, but I think to me that is pretty amazing that we were able to create this together completely from scratch. But before we would move on to the next animation, I want to talk to you about something for a second. You probably already experienced and know just how difficult it can be to get good enough at editing so that you can actually start landing some high-paying clients with it, start achieving location and time freedom, and really just having everybody not look at you as just this weird guy with a little bit of a hobby, right? You want to actually go from everybody looking at it as this little hobby that's pretty cute to actually turning it into a career that pays you really handsomely and allows you to have freedom in your life. This is in fact so difficult that 99% of you guys will probably not make it. And the reason I know this is because just 5 years ago, I was in the same exact situation that you might be in right now. I was very overwhelmed by everything I was looking at online, and I was just trying to land my first couple of clients. And fast forward just a couple of years, years, and I've been able to make well over $1 million online by the age of 21 through the online skills that I've learned, including editing as well. But by far, the most pivotal point in my life was not actually making hundreds of thousands of dollars, but it was when I started making my first $5,000 per month online while I was still in high school, because it allowed me to just travel wherever I wanted with my friends and not really have to look at the prices of the main things I wanted to buy, whether it was some clothes or even maybe a new camera. That was when I experienced the biggest upgrade, so to say, in my life. Now, it took me over 1 year of failing other business models, and even once I went all in on video editing, it took me way more than 6 months of grinding to be able to go from zero to being full-time with it. But a few months ago I was thinking, like, it's cool that I've been able to do this, but it took me way too long, and what if it didn't have to be the same exact way for everybody else? What if instead of you feeling overwhelmed and not knowing what to do, you had a step-by-step roadmap that you could follow that would teach you the skills that you need to start making an income online? Now, this is exactly why I created Creator Syndicate. For the price of literally less than a coffee a day, you're not only getting access to our full Iman Gadzhi editing style masterclass, but you will also have access to a number of weekly group calls with myself and other aspiring editors and creators who are on the same mission as you. And we even have a 15-hour plus freelancing masterclass where I share everything I've learned, how to go about outreaching clients, landing sales goals, and then closing people at high ticket prices for your editing services. Overall, you get over 50 hours of high-level training across all the different skills that you need to succeed in today's climate, and personal coaching from me on our weekly group calls. If you are ready to be a part of a community that will catapult your success and help you to truly get unstuck and finally get rid of this just annoying information overload that you are probably experiencing from all the videos you are watching right now, then go ahead and click the first link in the description. You can sign up there, and I'm hoping to see you inside of our next call and welcome you personally there. Anyways, now let's get back to the tutorial and move on to the second animation. Now let's do a 3D numbered list animation. Now we are slowly transitioning from 2D to 3D. In this next animation, we will cover how to use the classic 3D in After Effects to make Iman's signature numbered animations. We will do the intermediate hardness level version of Iman's style numbered animation lists, but if you would like to also learn some of the even more advanced ones, you can check out Creator Syndicate again in the description, where we will go into full depth with some of the most advanced ones out there. Now, let's jump back into After Effects and get started. So first, you want to start by creating a blue and white solid. On the white solid, you want to simply apply a grid and adjust the corner and lower the opacity. You want to pre-compose both layers and turn it into a 3D layer. Now, whenever we are working in 3D, we are opening something which is called 2 views panels. This will help you to navigate easier in the 3D space and be able to position your objects properly. Now, after this, you want to press R for rotation and rotate the floor for 90 degrees. Pull it by the Z arrow down and adjust it. Now, a quick note that I might have forgotten to mention is that in After Effects, you can select the certain layer and use shortcuts such as R for rotation, P for position, S for scale, T for opacity, and you can also customize your shortcuts, of course, to your exact liking. This will help you to access every parameter that you want to animate way faster. Now, let's get back to the animation. Next, you want to create a solid, which will serve us as the background. Now, add a gradient ramp, but this time opt for a radial ramp option. And after this, you want to place the colors that you wish to use. Now, you can probably see how our floor is a little bit smaller than it should be. Now, we will fix this by applying an effect called CC Reptile, which will allow us to adjust the size without distorting the floor size compared to it when we would use the scale to modify it. Use 3D arrows to adjust the floor, and once you have the scene set up, it's time for you to get your vector graphics. Depending on the topic of your video, of course, you will choose different vector icons from these that will suit your topic. In order to arrange all the objects, you can use the proportional grid, which is being found here. For each object, add a text of description. Once you do this, you want to pre-compose all of the objects with its respective layers. It's important to do this now, so we will be able to navigate all the layers easier in the 3D space. To add depth of field effects, you can use an effect called CC Vignette. Turn all the layers to 3D and adjust the anchor points by selecting the anchor point tool and dragging them to the middle of every vector layer. Now you're ready to set up the objects in the 3D space. Open the 2-view panel yet again and make sure it is set on top view. Now you can either use a proportional grid or the grid from the floor to orient the objects in the 3D space like I do in my case. Add another title text and put it to the 3D position as well. Place it in front of all the objects and lower it so it touches the floor. Create a one-node camera and make sure you adjust the background wall as well. Now, in order to not spoil all the habits that we will be showcasing to the viewers in this animation immediately, and to keep the viewer guessing and spark curiosity to watch until the end of this video, we will make sure to hide them using the following effects: Lumetri color and the mosaic effect. On Lumetri, we will turn off the saturation for now, while with the mosaic, we can use it to blur the icons and the text as well. Alright guys, it's animation time again. To animate, separate the position keyframes on the camera and toggle them. Make sure the first option zoom behind all the objects and make the animation in the graph editor start fast and then end slow. This will make an amazing introduction into animation. But for now, this scene looks pretty lifeless to me. To add some life to it, we'll animate the wiggle to the objects. The way you want to do that is you alt-click the position keyframe and type in the expression wiggle 2, 4. 2 relates to time in seconds, while 4 relates to how many pixels the object will move on the XY axes in those seconds. Now, after we have made an initial zoom out animation, we will proceed to animate zoom on the first object. After that, we will animate the X-axis position to move the camera from object to object. To do that well, after every zoom, make sure you copy and paste the last keyframes and then make the next movement. That way, we will make sure to have a small pause in between every movement between the objects. You can as well add some blur on the title text as we zoom in on the background objects to create a depth of field effect. And between every movement, make sure to unblur and saturate our objects. Oh, and by the way, if any of this After Effects 3D camera stuff kind of confuses you, we actually have a full-on in-depth lecture inside of Creator Syndicate as well, just on this if you need some extra help to grasp this concept. Now, once you have animated the camera movement, we will animate in our title with a decoder text preset. And let's play around a bit more with our background to make it even better. We are going to switch the gradient ramp with a 4-color gradient in this case. Set up all the colors to black except the main one to blue. Now you want to add clouds effect, and then you want to put combine mode to molt, and after this lower the x-axis speed of the clouds so it looks way more natural. And as usual, you can also add some grain at the end over the whole animation, and this is what you will get now as the final result. If you ask me, that is absolutely amazing. I think it looks great and it looks very premium in general, right? If you are working with a client, I can assure you that every client pretty much would be very happy if you were to deliver them that. Now, the next one will be for advanced but intermediate editors as well, where we will introduce some 3D camera mesh cutting and lighting as well in a 3D space. Now, for all the previous animations that we've done in this video, we were mostly relying on graphic vector websites to get our materials, but for this one specifically, we will need to do something different. Sketchfab. For those who don't know, this is a website where you can find free 3D models for your animation. When downloading your objects, make sure to get the GLB files. So you are going to be able to import the files directly into After Effects. When you import your files, make sure Advanced 3D is checked on, otherwise your objects are not going to show inside of the actual software. Now, you want to adjust your objects in a desired position by using the 3D handles. Now, let's go ahead and create our text animations for both the sword and the shield that I've got from Sketchfab. So first, we want to create a text and pre-compose it. Now, to animate this text, we will use the text preset called Fade Up Characters. Below it, on a shape layer, create a thin rectangle and color it with a gradient ramp. To make a filling rectangle animation, you want to duplicate the rectangle and then track matte the upper rectangle shape layer to the one below, which we will use as a stationary one for our animation. For the rectangle above, you want to keyframe the x-axis position, so we make the upper rectangle slide into the bottom one. You want to make the keyframe start super fast and then end slowly. Make sure the text and the rectangle sliding in keyframes are also matching, by the way. Now comes the tricky part. You want to create a text layer and put a slider control on it. Alt-click source text and paste this expression that I will have for you in the description down below. After this, select the value and pick whip it to the slider. After the pick whip, we will add .value to fixed 0 at the end of our code, which will basically make our numbers have 0 decimals. Now you want to keyframe the slider, and to make sure we will have a $sign on our number, we will type quote-unquote $sign plus in front of where it says effect. And after that, smoothen it out and match it to the text and the rectangle. And as an extra, you can also track matte the money text to the non-stationary rectangle, so it gets revealed as the rectangle is sliding in. Now, this is a very specific detail that Iman definitely uses in his edits a lot. You want to make an adjustment layer and then add some deep glow. After this, go ahead and set the exposure to 0.05 and radius to around 700. After this, you want to type turbulent displace in the effects panel and then go ahead and apply that to the adjustment layer. Set the amount to 5 and the size to 10. Now to animate it, you want to go to the evolution options and then alt-click random seed. There, you want to use expression time multiplied by 5. And boom, you got your animation ready. Now for the other text animation, you can copy and paste the same text and create a thinner version for below as well for the description. Align the text well, and on a new shape layer, create a line with a pen tool. Make the line around 10 points thick, and as per usual, you can color it with a ramp using start and end ramp in the effects option. Now to animate this line, we will do something a little bit different compared to what we did with the rectangles on the previous animation. You want to go ahead and add an effect called trim paths to the line and keyframe it with a sharp start and a slow end. After this, you want to pre-compose all three and match all the keyframes length and velocity, which is basically the smoothness. Now, copy and paste glow and turbulent displays from the first text animation. Okay, now take a deep breath. Now it's time to animate the objects. Separate the keyframes as usual and keyframe the end position for all axes alongside with orientation and move them 2 seconds ahead. Now to keyframe the start positions and orientations, you can use the 2 views panel here. Since we already keyframed the end position, now feel free to use the 3D handles to move the object to the position that they will slide into our frame from. Make sure you easy ease the keyframes by clicking F9 and in the graph editor, making it start fast and end slow. Once you have the animation set up, time to set up the rest of the scene as well. You want to go and create a 1-node camera and a solid layer for the floor and rotate it for 90 degrees as usual and bring it down. Now duplicate the floor, rotate it and use it as the background. Make sure to color it using fill from the effects panel to something darker than the floor. Now we start with the lights as well, so you can create one new environment light. In light options, you can proceed and turn off cast shadows since we will use some other spotlight a little bit later down the road. Let's create one initial zoom from the floor onto the shield and sword animation. Separate the keyframes on the camera and toggle end position along with the end orientation. Zoom out a bit using the Z axis and use orientation to turn the camera to the floor. If your floor is smaller, like it is in my case, just hit S and scale it a bit. We can as well adjust the floor color a bit using the fill effect and making it a bit darker. After that, F9 the keyframes and make the animation start fast and end slow as usual in the graph editor. Boom, it already looks pretty cool, but the text can be better. Adjust the text animations so they are close to the objects on both sides. Once the scene setup is done, it's time for the match cuts. Match cuts are pretty much these little smooth transitions with a bit of blur in between, which appear during the animation and make it seamless. For the match cut to work properly, camera speed must be the same before and after the cut as well. You will achieve this the easiest if you overlap the keyframes from the two cameras like shown in the example. The first camera should usually start with a sharp movement in the graph editor, while the second one is there to end the started movement smoothly with its keyframes. Now this is something that comes with practice, so give yourself a little bit of time to play around with it in order to actually master it. The first match cut we want to make is just before the sword and the shield touch, and just as the offensive investing text animation begins. Once you made a cut, use the second camera layer that we have to zoom on the offensive investing animation as it is appearing. You want to make sure to play here a bit with the x-axis so the animation zooming out of the floor is ending on the first camera. You make sure to overlap those keyframes. If you remember from the explanation before, first camera keyframes motion is always sharper and the second animation keyframes are slower to end that animation. That's how match cuts are basically being made in a nutshell. Now for the second match cut, yet again, we will make a starting animation on the end of the second camera and overlap those keyframes with the third camera keyframes. And for the last match, use the same principle of making a start to your animation on the third camera and end it on the fourth camera or null object like I do in my case. And to make all the cuts seamless, we will use an adjustment layer with the camera lens blur toggled. First keyframe at 0, second at 10, and last a little bit further ahead on 0 yet again. Copy and paste the same blur keyframes on the other match cuts. You can as well add some blur at the beginning of the animation, fading out. Okay, that was pretty challenging, let's be honest. The last thing we will do is add some lights to enhance our scene's visual appearance. You want to create a new spotlight and place it on the right side of the shield using 3D handles and make sure to match the color. You want to increase the intensity and narrow down the cone a little bit. And now do the same for the opposite side as well. Okay, now just keyframe the intensity of the light on the first and second match cut when the text is appearing. And as per usual, at the end you can also add some grain to add to the animation's visual. And now here is a final look at the animation that we created. Okay, that was pretty amazing, let's be honest. I really hope now you're actually going to go ahead and implement everything you learned, because information without implementation is worthless. And the thing is, now you actually have everything you need to get started with this Iman Gadzhi editing style. But here's the thing, knowing how to edit engaging videos in Iman style is only half of the battle. The real challenge is actually going out there and applying these skills consistently to stay ahead of the curve and turn your creative skills into a sustainable income. And again, this is exactly why I created Creator Syndicate, my private community. So if you want to get all the project files from this specific video and be able to use them, you can get them inside of Creator Syndicate, and you will also get way more in-depth After Effects and also Premiere Pro tutorials. Not only that, but also you will get my personal branding masterclass and my freelancing masterclasses to be able to not only become the best editor that you could be, but also not be a starving artist and be able to monetize your skill set. Trust me when I say this, that the best way to learn is to get feedback on your work from people who are a couple steps ahead of you on a consistent basis, and have this constant feedback loop between you making something and getting some feedback on it. And if you just do this consistently for a couple of months, trust me, you will go through a complete transformation and you will be unrecognizable. Remember, the best time to get started was yesterday, but the second best time is today. So I hope to see you inside of Creator Syndicate, and I also hope that you enjoyed this video today. If you did, make sure to smash the like button. Let me know what other style you want me to break down in the next video, and I will see you guys there.